So we're a bit late, so I'll go fast. I guess everybody will be hungry soon. Yeah, now it works. We're here to discuss case studies on digital marketing. Well, digital marketing, recently we've been hearing a lot of buzzwords, just like engagement, starting a discussion. I've listed a few of them. Viral, of course, multiplication rates, etc., etc. So today we're here to discuss the people who actually are behind the campaigns that achieve this engagement, this buzz, this communication, this conversation, and to present case studies and that will exemplify best what so far remains theoretical in most cases. We have here Mr. Karim Khalifa, so not to be mistaken. He's coming from Egypt. He's CEO and co-founder of A Digital Republic, which is a big online digital and mobile company in Egypt. We have Preethi Mariappan, and then I knew I wouldn't be able to say it. Mariappan, sorry, she's head of digital at TBWA Raad. We have Kieran O'Sullivan, head of digital of GWT, who joined recently and is coming from Australia. We have Yousef Tuqan, head and CEO of FlipMedia, which is a major regional digital company, and Fadi Yaish, executive creative director of FP7. All of these guys obviously have a lot to say on digital. They have lots of credentials and awards and representation. But the best way to show for what they have to tell you is to explain case studies. So we'll start right away with Kieran. On 5 minutes, explain what you were talking about Colombia, if I'm right. Colombia. Yes. Colombia, yeah. Well, a campaign in Colombia. Would you rather stay seated or have a mic?
Okay, we were asked to do a case study on, in the region, but I thought for ease and to be in line with the topic of today, I'd take a case study that JWT did in Colombia. The brand was a telephone company called Telenor. The product to be launched was broadband. And it was different in the sense that broadband in Colombia was sitting around 1 megabyte. The Telenor product that was to be launched was going to be about 30 megabytes. So the challenge was, how do you communicate the value of broadband speed to a consumer? Something that's something which they have no experience in, because the broadband that they have is quite slow. So JWT came up with a great idea, which to me typifies how digital marketing in general, advertising, should approach the challenges that their brands throw at them. So what they did, they went down to the bus station in Bogota, and they got on board the 9 o'clock bus to Cali. The bus was filled with students, housewives, businessmen, travelers, and so forth. And they told all those people on the bus that Telenor and broadband, the broadband product, was taking them all to Cali by plane. A trip that would normally take 8 hours over bumpy roads, through highlands and lowlands, would now take 35 minutes. They had a film crew on board with them, and they filmed the reactions of these people as they were told this message. Of course, as you can imagine, the delight and the curiosity and the shock that was on these people's faces. Some people had never been on a plane before. So they got all these people, they took them from the bus to the airport, they put them on a nice plane, and 35 minutes later, they landed them in Cali. While they were on the plane, they were talking to them about what this meant to their day. Of course, they were saying, well, now I can have more fun, I can meet more people, I can do more business, I can spend some more time with family. So basically, talking to people about the tangible benefits of what efficiency and the speed the speed that delivered that efficiency meant on their lives. They got off the plane, they went to a studio, they cut up all the footage, they delivered it to TV stations, newspapers, they went online, they uploaded it to their website, to YouTube, Twitter, they seeded it within the media. And by 6 o'clock, it was all over the news, it was all over the blogosphere. People were talking about this amazing event that had happened and the stories of the people that were being shared online. The next day, they launched the campaign with press ads, TV ads, and so forth. And instead of leaving it there, they continued by asking people within the social space how Telenor could bring a similar event to someone else who was experiencing this kind of inefficiency in their lives. So the next one was where they got a guy who usually took a 40-minute taxi ride to get to work every day. They took him to the Telenor building, they put him in a helicopter, and they flew him 5 minutes across to his workplace. And again, filmed the whole thing, the experience, and the sheer delight. Ultimately, what this campaign said to me is that digital just is one component. Today we have to find a story that delivers a message, and we have to think about not advertising, but what people will want to participate with, what they want to engage with, what really hits their passion points. And then we have to bundle it all up into a nice little sequence, launch it, and then continue with it, rather than what we normally do in this industry is launch and abandon a campaign and move on to something else. So that's my 5 minutes.
Exactly.
Thank you.
Preethi, will you take on? We'll discuss the issues that you mentioned just away, engagement a little bit later. Preethi is going to present us Standard Chartered, I think.
I can't see anything or anyone, so I'm going to just sit down. It's a lot easier for me. Okay, so when it comes to digital, we don't really believe in making campaigns. I think we need to move away from thinking of using digital for a campaign-based approach to moving brands towards creating more brand platforms and brand ecosystems. So the case study I want to talk about is for Standard Chartered Bank, and I chose this because it's a good example of how to take a tactical drive and offer, but use this opportunity instead to start a conversation and a brand community instead of doing a short-term campaign. So the offer at hand was 15% cashback. This is for their credit cards. It's on dining spends, which means basically when you use a Standard Chartered credit card, you get 15% back on your dining spends across all restaurants. And this happened just in the UAE, so everything that I'm talking about right now is UAE specific. So when we sat down and spoke to the bank, obviously the brief was for a campaign, give us some press ads, give us some banners, maybe a Facebook application. We said, well, this is really not going to work because, in exactly 6 weeks from now, you're going to have maybe some results and no traction with your community whatsoever. So we said, instead, what we'll do is take a slow burn approach, which is let's not look at a big bang, let's not look at a launch and leave type approach. We will start a campaign that maybe is not big budget, but will be big on results and big on community over a period of time. So this is how it started. We invited 2 bloggers from the UAE blogosphere to sample restaurants, 90 restaurants in 30 days. And it started from there. And we started a website where these 2 bloggers uploaded the crowdsourced user reviews. And also we had a Facebook page and a Twitter page where we brought people together to discuss eating out. When we did our listening exercise, what was interesting to note, though, was understanding that in dining out is a social activity, it's a social behavior. So it makes perfect sense to probably look at a crowdsourced format for this particular platform. And then we moved on to, it is an ongoing program, so there are lots of different components to this program. And then we moved on to doing tweet ups, offering deals and discounts with specific restaurants that we partnered. We were able to partner over 80 new restaurants just through these social channels, just through being able to network with these restaurants through social channels. So this program was not just consumer facing. It's interesting because it actually opens up new business operations that the bank never had. And for a bank, this is massive. If you come from a legacy of probably doing press ads, very minimal digital communication, to suddenly not just do digital campaigns, but to move to doing a program and do real community engagement. Because one of the goals was not just about creating a Facebook community. So this is not a Facebook-dependent program. We've created an owned media platform. You can check it out. It's called uaefoodexplorer.com. And it's supported by Facebook and Twitter. As part of this, well, obviously, I think what I also liked about it is the fact that we could experiment with lots of different types of content formats. It's very much the startup attitude. So lots of things worked for us on this platform, and lots of things didn't work for us on this platform, and it was okay to fail. This is actually the first program that we worked with on a brand where failure was an acceptable option. So that in itself was a great learning experience. So today we're about 4 or 5 months into this program. We achieved great sales results with the activation that we first started out on, about 15–20% over last year, proving that community conversion into sales does happen. We are growing our community base now, but currently the dialogue is where we're actually sitting with the brand's marketing team and product team to discuss what kind of product offer can you bring into play based on what your community wants? Because now we have those insights, and now we're able to create, now that we've created dialogue, we're able to understand, how better to improve the product. So, yeah, I think those are the reasons why I chose this case study.
Okay,
Thank you.
well, the use of bloggers is definitely something that we're going to talk about in a little bit. But in the meantime, can you give it to Fadi, please? Fadi Yaish is going to discuss. This will come as a shock, I'm sure, infinity.
Let me try which one I feel comfortable with. Hello, yeah. Okay. I think I will share with you some interesting thoughts before I share the case study. I mean, there is a lot of different channels to look into amazing, interesting case studies.
Fadi, can you get closer to the mic? I think
okay.
some people might not hear what you say.
Okay. So, I mean, all of us have hands-on on amazing case studies from around the world. There is so many different channels to get into that. So before I get to the case study, I just want to share with you interesting thoughts. I mean, the other day I was looking through the newspaper and I was reading about this Egyptian guy who called his daughter Facebook. And I found this very interesting. I mean, how people are really being able to identify the power of social media. However, I mean, it is very important for all of us into marketing, or call it advertising, is to identify and define exactly our role into that more than actually doing it. So when you really define what you're doing as communication business solutions, then things start to take different turn. I don't believe digital is a trend, and we don't believe digital is the future, let's do it. Digital.
I think this is the topic that we'll discuss later. If we could focus right now on the case study itself, so that after that we go to generic issues.
All right. Okay. So what I wanted to express, can be summarized in the case study. So basically, we had this case study where we should promote a USB broadband device, and we got this brief from our client Betelco, and they had a very unique case where they did the launch for the same device 1 year ago, and it wasn't very successful. And the campaign at that time did what it should be doing, basically highlighting the functional attributes of the USB device. It's on the go, it's fast, it's great, it's cheap, and everything. So the idea was, maybe we didn't do it very well. Let's do it again in a more creative way and make it more clear for the people. And then we thought doing that again would not solve the problem. And this is what I want to talk about, which is basically looking at the brief and try to identify the opportunity or the issues and try to come around it and figure out the best communication solution. So what we did is basically we told the client, how much is your budget for this campaign? Let's say it's $1,000. So our idea was basically to get this budget itself and give the people 500 devices for free. But how we do it was the innovation of the idea. And basically, we wanted to make sure that these 500 devices will land into an online social active people. So the idea in a summary is, if we made sure that these 500 devices will go into the hands of online social active people, then they will experiment the device, hopefully they will like it, and they will like what it can add to their life, and then they start spreading the word among their friends, and people will see them using it, and so on and so forth. Start spreading from one to the other, so you get more attention and attraction for the people to get into this product. So what we did is we went to Facebook, and we shared the task with the people, is basically we created a character for the USB device called SimSim on it. So take a picture with SimSim on it, tag yourself, tag SimSim on it, and you will be eligible for a withdrawal of to get USB for free. And we wanted to promote 500 winners, basically. And that was the whole idea. But this is what's interesting about online solutions, that when people really love the idea, when they really identify this is the solution as something appealing for them, and if it is successful, then people will love it, and they will start leading it. So we got a couple of pictures of people posing with the USB device, taking picture tagging, but then people took the lead of this campaign, and it was all of a sudden a race for SimSim love. And we had examples of people, for example, identifying themselves as a lookalike of the character of the device. Some lady chopped her baby's head and put the character instead. Others were kissing the character. So it's unbelievable emotional bond was created between them and the device itself. So we got the 500 winners, and then we thought, like, how can we take this even further? So we got a second assignment where we gave a task of, for the 500 winners, if they can tag 10 of their friends, each one of them, then they'll be eligible for a 50% discount on the device. So what happens is that we have 500 winners. These 500 winners will tag 10 of their friends. So 500 by 10, that's 5,000 salesmen for the device itself. So basically, we start spreading from one person to the other 10 into their friends' network. And at the end, we have a whole army of salespeople for the device, and the client got an increase of 111% in sales. This is the idea in a nutshell, and it's about how we do it more than what it is the case itself. That's all I have to share. Thank you very much.
Okay. Well, I guess from what Fadi said, probably what everybody is most going to remember is a daughter called Facebook in Egypt. Karim, I don't know if you're going to mention anything close to this, but you're going to discuss Egypt probably?
Well, I mean, we have had the most amazing accidental digital case study.
Yeah.
Well, accidentally digital, I think.
Okay.
But I think Yousef is going to talk about that.
Exactly. No, you're going to offer us the ideal campaign, digital campaign.
Yeah, so
the way it should be.
I think following on from what my fellow panelists have been saying, and very much carrying on from what Fadi has just said, that there are certain things that really contribute to making a digital campaign successful. And I think also, just like Fadi said, it's not about what you do, it's about how you do it and how you plan it, and that's very important. We're very often as agencies faced with situations where the client comes up to us and says, I want Facebook, I want Twitter, I want a mobile app, when in reality they may not really necessarily need that, it may not meet the objectives of their campaign, and it's just because they happen to be the buzzwords of the day. So what I want to touch on very quickly is, and pretty much has been reflected in all the case studies that were mentioned today, and particularly I think the Revolution 2.0 case study that will be talked about later, it's all about several key factors, one of which being that planning and research is very important. So when you're coming to plan a digital campaign, you need to very, very much know your audience. Who are you talking to? You don't want to come up with a campaign that has an iPhone application when you're talking to rural customers in Upper Egypt. So it's about understanding your audience first and foremost, and really knowing who you're talking to so that you can select your technology. In today's world of thousands and thousands of new technologies and new blogs and new websites coming up every day, it's very easy to get crowded with so much information, so much technology, that the trick becomes how to filter all of that and select the one or two technologies or websites or fads that will meet the objective of the campaign. So planning and knowing your audience is very, very, very important. Secondly, I would say, and very key to this is that we're strong believers at Digital Republic that the campaign should be very much creative-led. So in the same way that we shouldn't just say, okay, I want Facebook, or I want Twitter, or I want this, or I want that, or I want a mobile app. It's to step back and say, we're not going to fill spaces, we're not going to fill media, we're in the business of coming up with a concept, we're in the business of coming up with a creative idea, and based on that creative idea, we then see the suitable channels and the suitable technologies that will fulfill the idea in the best way. And very often, and this is a lesson that we need to always try to drive and learn and adapt. I mean, it is very much a learn and adapt industry that we're in. But to adapt the media and the technology on the idea and not vice versa. So that's a really important point to note, and I think some of the case studies that were talked about today really highlight the success of the case studies. It's based on an idea first, followed by then which media to use and which technology to use to deliver that idea. Fadi talked about rewarding and prize and incentivization. I think that's extremely important in today's world of, especially if you're talking to a youth audience, especially if you're talking to an interactive audience, that we make sure that there is some kind of reward in it for the client who's interacting with you. And that reward may just be pure entertainment. You know, it could be just a fun game or a fun application or something like that. But there needs to be the philosophy in a digital campaign to deliver success is more of a I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine kind of philosophy. And that will increase your uptake, that will increase your interaction, that will build loyalty between you and the user, which will bring, hopefully translate into a purchase of some sort later on.
Is there any campaign that, in particular, that comes to mind that gathers most of the elements that you just mentioned?
Yeah, I mean, I can touch on a couple. I mean, this is one, for example, that we haven't done, so this is not a plug or anything like that, but it's one campaign that I felt really hit the nail on the head. And it's, I can't remember the name of the soft drink. I heard this in AdTech in New York, and it was a soft drink that was changing their skin. They were changing the look on their bottle. And so the creative concept that came out from that was, okay, how do we hammer into people's minds the concept of a look being changed and a skin being changed around the bottle? And so they came up with an idea of change your own skin. And this is an online activation where you go onto this really funky website and you design your own tattoos and you design your own skin per se, and with augmented reality you picture yourself with the various different tattoos and skins on your own hand or on your own face or on your own arm, and then you share that and you upload that and you say, you know, I've reskinned myself and so has this soft drink. So you've got an engaging, interactive solution. It's very importantly the creative, the concept was first, which was the reskinning, the re-looking yourself, which is very much linked with the brand idea itself, with the relaunch of the look. It's entertaining, social media, people sharing their new look across the various social media platforms, rewarding because they were putting themselves out there onto the internet and showing off their new tattoo designs, and totally spot on the target audience. So that's one, and there are a lot of other small, very much more simple examples of that. I mean, we did a campaign for McDonald's, which was a very good example of how to link digital media with on-the-ground or non-digital media. And this is one very important point that we can add here, is that we strongly believe that digital campaign or a digital solution in isolation is not as strong as a digital solution interlinked with non-digital media. A well-interlinked campaign with digital, with on-the-ground, with print, with TV, with a full, you know, as they say, the 360, is much more powerful than a just pure digital solution. But it's not just 360 for the sake of using all channels. It's properly interlinking the digital solution with the offline solution, have a proper interlinking of that is a much more powerful overall campaign than anyone in isolation. And we did this with, for example, McDonald's, where we said, okay, social media, the idea is that they're launching a new breakfast and they want to promote this new breakfast. And so how do we get people to try it? How we get people to sample this new breakfast? And the target audience was young. And so, okay, the ideal channel for that is Facebook, in particular, that they didn't have a Facebook group. So we had two challenges. We had to sample the product and we had to have a Facebook group, starting off with 0 fans. So what we did was a very simple game application on the fan page where you go in and if you become a fan, you get a free voucher which you take to the store and you get your free breakfast.
So it doesn't have to be very complicated.
Very simple, linking the digital with the offline world, driving traffic to the actual store, and we see cases like Foursquare, out there today, which are, really going in that direction. So there is a future there. So simple, interlinked, rewarding, entertaining, and I think those are some of the important pillars which I think all these great case studies have reflected as well.
Okay, and then Yousef.
Okay.
What kind of example do you have in mind?
Okay. Hello, everyone. I hope that you've already learned by now 2 things from this panel. Number 1, we absolutely hate giving presentations without PowerPoint. And number 2, you don't have to have a shaved head to be in this panel, but it really helps. I was going to ask you all to put down your mobile phones and your Blackberries and pay attention, but I can't. So if I can't beat them, I'm going to join them. So I'm going to ask that everybody puts their hands up and gives me a big wave so I can take a picture for Twitter. Ready, go! Cool. Okay, now I have to tweet it. Send, tweet pic. Cool, now I can feel like I'm participating. You'll see come up. Oh, you'll see come up. Well, I'll do it after this. Yousef Tuqan, easy peasy. Okay, I've got a case study, and I don't have a PowerPoint either, and so this is going to be really hard, but I think I can do it. Okay, the target audience was quite typical and not very surprising. This is a campaign we ran last year, and this is probably the greatest campaign I will ever run in my life.
Raise the mic, so we can hear you.
Okay, so this is the greatest campaign in the history of my life ever. The target audience is pretty straightforward. Female, expat, based in the UAE, aged 30 to 35, works in media and marketing. Not a difficult one, right? The client already had a relationship with the consumer, with the target audience, but they said that they wanted to deepen it and to see what we could do to help. So we conducted some research and said, so what does the target audience say to you? And we realized was that actually the target audience couldn't be happier. They used to say things like, I couldn't be happier. This is the greatest thing I've ever done. There's no one else for me. Once in a while, they'd even say, I love you. Pretty easy job, right? Happiest person in the world, how could it get better? But that wasn't enough. With no media spend and no budget, we had to convince this person to make a lifelong commitment to them. Does anybody know what I'm talking about yet? Okay. Let me detail a bit more about the target audience. Female, expat, aged 30 to 35, works in media and marketing, and her name is Meredith.
She's your wife.
She's my wife. So my wife is a social media expert guru nerd, and I am a social media expert guru digital nerd as well. So how does one digital nerd propose to another? He makes a website and asks him to click a button. What we did was we actually built a website called www.youandme.fm, like YousefandMeredith.fm. It's in Flash, so it won't work on your iPhones right now. But with that website, I created a lovely little campaign where we had this little cartoon character that took her through our love story, and then at the very end, it stated all the obvious benefits of making the lifelong commitment, children and eternal happiness, and a ring were promised. And then in order to confirm her acceptance, she had to click yes on the website. And the result, well, we couldn't be happier, and we're totally married. So thank you.
And how are you planning to call your daughter or son, whatever?
I will not name my daughter Facebook, no.
No, you're not? Damn. Okay. Well.
I do.
Well, do any of you guys have a question for specifically the case studies? And no, you're not allowed to ask anything about Meredith's personal, Yousef's personal life more than he did already. Before we go into the main discussion, yes, please.
Hi, I'm just wondering, companies usually pay a lot of money for advertisements offline, but when it comes to social media, they always kind of wonder, what do you need all the money for if you're giving them this service? So, in a way, some companies maybe. So, I'm just wondering, what kind of approach or advice can you give if someone wants to approach a company and tell them, I can do your social media campaign or something?
We actually deal with this like all the time. There's this notion out there that if it's social, it's free and it's cheap. And what are you charging me for? But I think it helps when you take the client through the process of what it takes to run a social campaign or a social program, because most clients look at social media as media channels, so they don't really, and they look at the media channels, and of course Facebook is free, Twitter is free, but they don't look at the time or the strategy that's required to run something like this over the long term, or the fact that you have to do analytics to be able to really evaluate this also on a regular basis and to deliver value. So mostly what we do with our clients is to be able to take them through this process of what really goes into a social program. And once you're able to see all of the different components, you know, behind the scenes, then from a costing perspective, I think they're able to see the value for this.
And I think also, you know, at agencies, we live in this world where we know the possibilities and the results that can happen. Sorry. And so we tend to go to clients with these huge ideas of how we're going to create this massive community and build it from 1 to 100,000, and people will love us and we'll communicate with them every day. I think the best way is, yes, you need to educate them and get them on board with the thinking and the results, but I think it's about starting with baby steps, just saying, let's take whatever X amount of dollars and let's start with this. And then they'll see the results, and then it's just slowly build upon and build upon. And then you'll pretty much find once they've achieved a goal, well, I have 10,000 likes, 10,000 fans on my Facebook, whatever it may be, that at least for them is a tangible result, which they can go back to their bosses and say, look, see, it's working. And then from there you build and build and build.
Actually, I have a question. I attended a presentation a few months ago from someone who was saying that basically we're the last generation who's going to use the term digital, because digital will soon be the norm, so there won't be any need to specify this. But so far, today, we still need to say this is digital, this is traditional media, and sometimes the use of the word traditional may be weird. What makes digital so special today, and how long is this going to last? Because so soon it's going to be traditional that's going to be special. Correct me if I'm wrong. This is interested in.
Do you want me to? I'll jump in. Yeah. Just as somebody who runs a digital agency, I've got quite a unique perspective on this. I think the conversation of we're digital, we're not digital, we're all digital is something that agencies are still trying to figure out. And what we found over time was a lot of agencies set up these E and I divisions, and now they're trying to integrate everybody back in. And I think a main reason for that is because what we do as digital people can't be easily replicated. I mean, there's a lot of disciplines and a lot of very unique skill sets that are required to be able to do what we do. And given the fact that spend is still quite low in the region, it still has always been seen as a separate thing. Now, it works just like any other aspect of an agency business in that, you know, you have a lot of different communication channels that seem to integrate a lot better than digital does for some reason. And it's changing over time, and I'm very curious to hear kind of perspectives from, you know, some of the bigger agencies in terms of how you've managed that evolution and how you're adapting to it as well.
I mean, I totally agree. I mean, this is what I was trying to say, is that digital is not a trend. Digital is not something you say, yeah, let's do digital. And the trap is that we don't want to change clients' briefs from let's do print and outdoor to let's do print, outdoor, and digital solution. That's not the thing, and that's why we have to look into the brief and try to see which medium, which communication channel would really be the most successful media channel for the opportunity that we have at hand for the brand or product. Digital is just a communication tool. Of course, it has its merits and it has its own different attributes and different potential, but it is only successful when it is the right solution for the issue or the opportunity we have at hand. I mean, we cannot all just, I mean, what is happening now, like most of the campaigns we're seeing is like, yeah, let's do this film, or let's shoot this picture, whatever, and then we'll ask the people to try to shoot similar video or similar picture, and the best 10 will win this.
Well, actually, you often
Yeah,
hear
so-
people in agencies saying, we're going to do a viral ad. But how do you make something viral? It becomes viral, isn't it?
Exactly.
So,
Exactly. That's
why is the misconception, and where is the problem?
I mean, I think, as I said, I mean, I won't say a problem, but
We don't hear you anymore.
yeah, but maybe the most fundamental thing.
Fadi, we still don't hear you. You need to.
Okay.
Thank
Oh
you.
my God. Okay. So I think the most fundamental thing and lays into defining really what you are doing first. We're not doing ads. You know, we're doing communication solutions. Once you start realizing this, then you will start using digital as a communication tool, not just as an alternative media or as a media that you have to use. And once you get into that and start looking around you and start to use the great technology possibilities that we have around us and start to generate ideas that can break through the clutter for it to be successful, then your whole attitude and approach towards digital or digital communication solutions would change. I mean, the aim is to keep on going and try to invent something, some communication channel that other peoples did not tap into yet.
Okay. Karim, you wanted to add something earlier.
I mean, to go to your point of what are the unique things about digital, I mean, of course, first of all, digital should not replace any other media. I really strongly believe it works in collaboration with all the other channels. And as Fadi said, it is just another communication channel. And if you look at even the revolution in Egypt, you know, people are saying it's a Twitter revolution, a Facebook revolution, but actually the revolution is the people which made this revolution. In 1917, when there was a French Revolution, the telegraph was a key player in mobilizing and getting the people to know where to go and what to do during the revolution. And you know, it wasn't called a telegraph revolution. It's just another communication tool, like Fadi is saying, and it's ways of how to use that communication tool effectively to meet the brand objectives or the campaign objectives is the important part. On the viral question, you know, how can you just make it go viral? It doesn't just go viral. The aim is, again, and this is why being creative-led is very important, that we need to do things, and this is one of the beauties of digital, we need to do things in a way that inspire other people to do similar things, and that's when something can start to go viral. So if you come up with a really cool concept that is on brand, that inspires other people to come up with their own versions of it, for example, their own spoofs of it, or their own little variants of it, then something like that can start going viral as well. So it's about inspiration. It's about using the internet as an inspirational tool where other people can then be inspired to do similar things, and indirectly you're getting free advertising from the public for your brand.
Ready?
Yeah, but I think it's important to understand that if you do want to get into any form or component of viral advertising, this is not just all organic. There's a science behind it, because a lot of times we have, you know, people saying, oh, it's a great creative idea, it should go viral, but then it doesn't. You know, you can't just go viral. There is a science behind this. There are specific seeding agencies that know it does start with a great creative idea, yes, but then you need to work with the right partners. You have to know your audience, you have to know your channels, and there's a science to this. So this is something I think that's important to understand, that these are, you know, specifically for brands, you know, it's not always organic.
But then again, people talk a lot about the tribe, addressing the tribe and getting natives from this tribe to work this digital side. So can it be learned, or do you have to actually be born in the digital world to really master it?
See, my role specifically at TBWA is to drive digital integration. So definitely, I think the behavior can be learned. Yeah, okay, with with the younger generation, they are digital natives, but you look at the traditional sort of advertising setup, there are a whole bunch of people that bring fantastic, communication skill sets, and why should a channel matter? Everybody should be able to learn how to use these skill sets across a new channel. Even us, I mean, we're still learning. I mean,
definitely.
you didn't have augmented reality a while back, and now I have to learn what AR is. And then, okay, from AR, it'll be something else next. The whole point is that change is constant when it comes to technology, and okay, they're learning a little bit later, but everybody's got to learn, including people that work in digital.
Any questions from the crowd? Yes, please. And of course, we'd like to add that questions on Twitter are most welcome. So we'll try to add these too. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Daniel Neubert. I'm from the website shahia.com. I think Saudi Arabia is one of the key advertising markets in the region. Can you share with us some of your experiences working on campaigns that use local publishers, local Arabic websites, because you've been mentioning Facebook, Twitter, etc. And I think a lot of the audience is interested in Arabic content. So if you can share with us your experiences, using or developing campaigns on Arabic websites, what you miss, what is their successes or failures?
Well, we currently run a program for GE Healthcare. We launched, GE globally has a platform called Healthymagination, and we launched Healthymagination consumer-facing platform for GE, specifically for KSA, targeting women in KSA. The whole concept around Healthymagination is to, create behavioral change over a period of time for Saudi society to adopt healthy behaviors. And we are speaking to women in particular because as gatekeepers of family, they clearly have a huge amount of influence over family health. So you can see we have a website as part of this called healthymagination.me. We're also called, it's called Lezehatna on Facebook and Twitter. So you can check us out. But it's been a great learning experience for us because this is the first time we're talking to such a niche specific audience, and we've got a great response. We have worked with content partners, not so much on the media front, but mainly content providers from KSA, because there's a lot of content that goes into this website, original content that's being created in Arabic. So for the first time, we're not creating like articles or like a video content, or even we're doing radio content right now for broadcast online, not in English. It's being originated in Arabic. And we see a massive change, obviously, in the kind of response that we get to original Arabic content. So in a span of 1.5 months, we started out with 0 fans, and for, let's assume, a topic like healthcare, which is not it's not like Pepsi or Coke, or it's not like really sexy, but for a topic like this, you go from having maybe 0 fans to we're like at 10,000 fans, or 2.5 months later, so which was massive for us. But it's not just about the number of fans. So if you look at the kind of interactions that we have, every single post almost gets anywhere between 25 to 50 comments on a single post. There's a huge thirst for learning about health and, and engaging in dialogue around healthcare issues. So we're also present on some of the forums now, Arabic forums, where we talk about Healthymagination, we talk about health, we talk about food and nutrition, health and fitness, and how women can change health for their families. And we're getting into other channels now. So we're going to launch the mobile application for healthcare, which gives you healthcare tips and advice on a regular basis. So we're looking at components like that. We're going to target a younger audience now. We're going to launch a healthcare e-comic. It's a full-fledged program, but I think for us critically, the learning here was the fact that if you originate in Arabic, your quality of engagement is massively different. It's so much higher.
Social media, we talk a lot about Facebook in the region, but bloggers are increasingly important. And one question that was asked on Twitter is how to approach them. Kieran? In the region. specifically, of course.
I think it's straightforward. You identify whether or not they're talking about subjects that align with the brand. For example, we launched a new website for a bank in Kuwait, and before we launched it, we released it to about 15 bloggers in Kuwait, and asked for their feedback and so forth. And they then obviously promoted and either positively or negatively about the product. In Kuwait also we have a gentleman who works for an international automotive brand on our behalf, where he test drives every new model. He's invited every time a new model comes in to come and test drive and write what he wants really about the brand. And 9 times out of 10 it's positive. I think the important part is obviously not to ask him to always be positive. I think the thing is his integrity is incredibly important. But there's a number of ways to approach it. Directly is generally the best way if you want to employ them for your brand.
When you talk to Lebanese bloggers in particular, they say that that's the issue, that they're approached as if they were employees, whereas they're doing this for free and for fun. So it should be entertaining, it should be respectful, and it should be a conversation. Why isn't this happening within agencies? And some of them actually said that you need to do what they do to understand them, be part of the community. So do we need to be bloggers to interact with bloggers when working in the communication industry?
I think it's important when you approach a blogger, and there's 2 different ways of approaching. I mean, directly is as Kieran mentioned, lots of brands think that we can just go to a blogger, pay him some money, and they just blog on your behalf for a period of time. And this is where for them, and for the real influential bloggers out there, that's obviously an insult. So what we need to do is we need to find a blogger whose values are similar to the brand or the campaign's values are, so that they actually, when they're blogging with belief, and they're supporting the brand values in that way genuinely, and that's the way that it will start to gain the traction and to have that real. So it's about aligning the blogger and the blogger's values with the values of the brand and the values of the campaign, and that's the trick there.
You're aligning the bloggers with the values of the company, or are you picking the bloggers
You're picking according to the values of the...
But again, I'm asking this question. Do you need to be part of this community to really understand how they work and talk to them?
I don't think so, but I think one of the key things that's missing from a lot of the social media you see in the Middle East is sincerity. What happens quite often is that marketing managers are still able to see only about 6 or 8 weeks ahead, and what they don't recognize, and like what you hear what Preethi's saying with her campaign, this is not a 6-week commitment. This is a multi-year commitment that they have to make, and we find ourselves doing a lot more of that. And if you go to bloggers and go, hey, my marketing manager told me that he wants bloggers to test drive a car, they're just going to go, piss off, like, you're not paying me for this, just leave me alone. So if you're actually being sincere and creating genuine relationships with these people over time, it works a lot better for you. I mean, it's something we come up with quite often because we're working on a lot of projects similar to what Preethi is doing, where we're actually building client communities for them, and these take 1 to sometimes multi-million-dollar commitments to be able to make these happen. And a lot of the content that we're producing is being actually provided to us by contributors, and a lot of it is bloggers, lifestyle writers, travel writers, media bloggers, whoever it might be. And so you have to engage with these people on their terms and give them something of value that they want to participate in, not just saying, hey kids, like, social media is cool, like, can we be part of the, can we hang out with you? It doesn't really work, and it's really insincere.
Are we learning in the region?
I think so. I think we all get better. I mean, I think, what you find with everyone here is that we're all trying to pull the whole industry along with us, and that we're all, half our job is convincing people why they should use the internet, and then the other half is why they should work with my agency or his agency or his agency, and that hasn't changed in 15 years. So hopefully with time it will, and this conversation will become easier.
Any question? Yes. Akram.
Yes, Tariq.
I wanted to ask Yousef. More and more, you're seeing the digital the digital discipline being integrated into media companies, being integrated into advertising agencies, specialty agencies. where is the future of the digital agency? Where is it going? How many more RG are we going to see? A lot more RGAs and flips and digital republics growing in the world and in our region, or are we going to see, or do you think we're going to see it more integrating into everything else?
That's a really good question, and I think a lot of agencies are asking themselves that question right now. And I think one of the things that makes digital agencies different from ad agencies is that the business model is very different. You know, we don't make a lot of money on media buying. You know, we really have to, and the whole production aspect of what we do is very, very different. So if ad agencies or communication groups want to integrate digital successfully, there's a huge amount of horsepower that's required to be able to do that. You know, I mean, we're 120 people, and if we ran ourselves like a typical digital ad agency, we wouldn't be able to grow to that size. But our business model is very different. How we do our production is very different. So I think you'll see a hybrid model in the future where you'll see large digital components within bigger communication groups, but really having to run in their own way.
But do you find that your clients will be asking the digital agency, can you take this, this platform that you've built and start to do the traditional stuff with it? You know, are they asking that of you, and will this sort of be part of the trend?
That's a really good question, because right now we work as part of big agency teams. So we do the ads, someone does the digital, someone does the PR, somebody does the ads. And you know, increasingly the lines between all those different disciplines are becoming very blurred. So is what we do digital PR? Is it digital advertising? Sometimes we have to shoot a TV commercial. You know, so I think, you know, like where you see a lot of the big agencies going now is kind of making digital part of every other touch point that they have. And I think there's something to be said for that, because it is becoming part of every question and not just, oh, let's go ask the nerds how to make the website. So I think it is, the short answer to the long answer now is that really, yes, I think you will see digital agencies growing within the larger communication groups, but kind of acting on their own, but also then touching every other aspect of the communications group.
Okay, we need to cut this short, so we'll take just one last question. Yes, please.
Hi. We heard a lot of client names like Standard Chartered, Telenor, and things like that. These are obviously massive companies. I'm talking from a startup perspective. I mean, some of us are, I mean, as a startup, you try and do some of this yourself, but with a company that's, you know, every there is not necessarily digital media savvy, what are the options that are open to us? I mean, do we try and have to go down and, you know, learn all this stuff ourselves? Is there, you know, avenues for us to explore and so on?
Anybody else? Karim?
Hi, Omar, how are you? It's a great question, because we very often face, it's a challenge for us as an agency as well, where we get very often smaller entities, even charitable entities, which without much budget, which want social media presence, which want digital PR, which want all these things that you're talking about. And it's a question for us of, do we have the resource and capacity, opportunity cost to do that kind of thing? The one benefit of social media today, it's clear, is that it's relatively, for sort of the generation that you guys are in, it's relatively easy to be something that you can do pretty quickly yourselves. It doesn't need to be a professional, you know, McDonald's or huge companies fan page with all sorts of animations and games and apps and so on. It can be relatively straightforward, relatively simple, relatively self-service, do it yourself. And effective, as effective almost, without the bells and whistles that a big client would have. So don't put aside the fact that, you know, you're not as you're as expert as almost anybody else is out there at using Facebook. So I wouldn't put aside that it's something that you could invest your own time in. And then as you go into the next level, you start to think about, is this something we need to invest in? And this is where the value add of a bigger agency could come in to help you put all those other bells and whistles around it and make it much more complex solution. And there are a lot of guys out there who on a sort of individual level, this is what they live and breathe and do. They're tweeters, they're bloggers, they're Facebook. And it's, you know, it might be an opportunity to engage with one of those guys to say, you know, come and join us on this cause that we have, or this initiative that we have, and help us create our social media entity for us as an individual, or as a, you know, as an activist in that area. So I would consider those routes. I would consider your own knowledge and skills, and those are the routes that I mentioned, until you're ready to take it to the next level. Because frankly, I'll be very honest, you don't need a big agency to do the stuff that that you're probably thinking of doing as a small startup, as a small entity with a small cause. We're wasting money, I think. So that's what I would say for that.
I'm afraid we'll have to end it shortly. So thank you all for coming. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.